Guys, I'm coming in hot. It's another episode, number 157 of YWC Football Talk. And today, look, we just talked about this off air. We said the two of us said to each other, is it perfect to come on? Is it horrible to come on? But on the same day where Aaron Rodgers decides I'm not leaving the NFC North, I'm staying in Green Bay, Tommy Stout, noted Bears fan, resident Bear fan of YWC Football Talk, is back. Like I'd ask how you're doing, but I can already tell.
Yeah, I'm back. I wish I was the only one who was back today, but that is not the case.
No, it's not. It's not. Like obviously, look, today was about as chaotic for the NFL, I'd say, as that. I don't know if you remember in 2016 there was that crazy NHL day where like there was a couple of big trades involving like Taylor Hall and PK Subban, and then
Yeah.
Stamkos re-signed that day right before free agency. That's literally this. And on like today we woke up, we all thought, hey, it's just going to be franchise tags, this and that. I thought I was going to come on here, have a lovely chat with the Bears, but like the meme in SpongeBob with the one fish wearing the pants coming into the Krusty Krab, it's Aaron Rodgers re-up in Green Bay, Russell Wilson traded to the Denver Broncos. I don't know where to begin, but at least you now know that this is like the last dance for you guys, for them at least.
See, I'd like to think so, right? But I've said that like the last 3 years. Realistically, is it? Yes, but there's also a part of me who's like, there's this big boogeyman that's just constantly under my bed, and like no matter how many times I like change my bed or I push that boogeyman out the door, that door slams wide open, and here he comes right back to ruin my life.
Exactly. It's like in a horror movie when you think the monster's gone, and then that's boom when the monster just appears right out of nowhere.
Yes, pops up right behind you.
Oh, exactly. Oh, but I just love today for all the chaos and stuff. But then again, like when you look at it, do you take solace and happiness in knowing that in a couple years this is going to truly strap them cap wise, though, or is it just pain? Like where is it for that?
So right now, because okay, so there's kayfabe. It's 6:19 Central. I think this happened late morning, early afternoon. The news was confirmed, or I guess Rogers has said it isn't accurate, like
Yeah.
completely or whatever. But yeah, I think it's been 7, 8 hours. So right now it's still pretty like raw. So right now it's just pain and that's it. But I'm sure like, I'll sleep on it tonight and then I'll get it into my brain like, oh, well, like you said, they're going to be strapped. There's going to be some decisions that have to be made. But yeah, for now, for the next, I don't know, 12 hours at least, it'll just be me being sad. Like, here we go again.
Imagine if like I had like Mike there with you because I know where spectrum he's on. It would just be like two total ends of the spectrum. But I'm glad. Like it's like I'm just glad to know that. Look, I even told Justin when I was watching Revolution with him on Sunday that you were coming on. He's like, great. He's just going to come on and like complain about the Bears, and I'm like, that's what I was expecting. I know because the last time you and I talked, it was literally week one. You guys had just lost to the Rams, and it was like, okay, let's see where this goes. And now we've seen where it's gone, and that's the one thing. Like I want to get off the focus of the Packers in that situation because obviously, look, the more I talk about it, the deeper the knife's going, and I know you don't like that. But as the subtitle says right here, Justin Fields, like first year, were you impressed? Is there anything you'd like to see him work on? How do you feel about number one?
So I would like to put my hand up. I believe last time I was talking about Fields and Mac, about who was going to be better, who was going to look better. And I believe I was very strong on the Fields train, which obviously I'm biased, so I'm going to be. But I would like to say that Mac looked a little bit better than Justin did. So credit to me for that. But yeah, I mean, there was a lot from Fields that I loved, like especially that deep ball is just something that we haven't seen for some time, at least consistently with the Bears. So like there were usually once or twice a game where he would just absolutely uncork one and this ball would go flying like 80 yards in the air. And I was like, oh my goodness, like this kid can throw. So that was the big one that stuck out to me pretty much all year. And obviously, he had some tough deep balls where it got picked off. It was a horrible throw or whatever. But I think, it, there was a lot of negativity around the league in general on Justin this year, and even like in the fan base, which I understand because, like I said, it wasn't exactly the greatest year of all time by any stretch of the mind. But to me, with that coaching staff, with that game planning, if you can call it that, and especially with that offensive line, like I as the year went on, it's like what are we really expecting this kid to do? Now that said, that's not completely making excuses for him because, like I said, there's definitely room for improvement. The reads are not there yet. Like just being able to get up to that line and kind of see what's going on and change on the fly before and after the snap, that definitely needs to be improved. But man, I think this thing it kind of comes and goes on the offensive line, and if we don't get that thing set up at least a little bit more, he's going to be in trouble. And for a guy that is so successful using his legs, and hopefully we can game plan around that starting now, he's going to be running a lot in a bad way.
It's like what we saw with Zach Wilson this past season a lot, where Wilson was running for his life. He obviously got hurt in that one Patriots game, and everyone kept saying that. Now we're not wishing injury upon anyone, especially your quarterback, but I get where you're coming from in that sense where you have to, your first thoughts are, look, we got the quarterback, you've got the pieces around him, you've got Mooney, Cole Kmet could be a promising tight end. David Montgomery had a really good year, both fantasy-wise and playing-wise. We'll see if Tariq Cohen comes back. But that leads to the regime, and obviously, look, new coach, new GM, but it's the new Matt and Ryan. You fired a Matt and Ryan to hire a Matt and Ryan as Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus. Everyone says like Eberflus. I say Eberflus. I know the E is silent. It's pronounced with an I. What did you think of the hires, and do you have any promise? Like, do you buy into what they're selling so far? I know it's March.
Right.
But are you buying what they're selling?
So I actually did laugh because like I didn't make the Matt and Ryan connection until the tweets started flying of like, oh, the Bears dumped one Matt and Ryan to get another one. So like I said, I didn't think about it at all. And then the first time I saw that viral tweet about the Matt and the Ryan, I just kind of looked at the ceiling. I was like, come on, like it is what it is. Obviously, that doesn't have any impact on, how the actual performance is, but just the fact that, visually we went from that to that is like the most Bears thing of all time. Am I buying what they're selling? So GM wise, I like that there's been a lot. He talked about it when he was hired in his original like presser thing that he did in all the media between then and now, and then also just recently at the draft or at the combine, talking about offensive line, offensive line, offensive line, offensive line, which is obviously what I and like 99% of other Bears fans have been preaching for, I don't know, forever. So because I'm a Bears fan and I've been burned so many times, am I buying it? Not 100% yet, but I'm like, okay, so like I'm walking through the checkout lane and I see like the chips and the gum over there, and I'm looking at it
Yeah.
like, oh, it's only $1, I can get that. So I'm like, I'm getting my wallet out and I'm ready to throw some money on the table, but I'm not like all in yet. I want to see kind of how draft shakes out and how the team kind of starts moving around as we get more towards the season.
Exactly, because right now is like the meat and potatoes of the offseason, really. I know that's a really weird expression, but that's what now is, because now is the free agency. Obviously, the franchise tag deadline passed about 3 hours ago with Chris Godwin and Dalton Schultz being the most notable names today that were announced. But no, I get where you're coming from, though, because, like, look, you have free agency next week, the negotiation period, which I still buy as pure BS from the NFL. I still think, look, that's the reason the combine exists, for not only for potential prospects that are going to be drafted in April, but it's literally a breeding ground for agents to go to GMs and say, hey, where's my guy? Do you like my guy? Where is his interests lay? So all those happen. We just don't know about it. Now, look, Indianapolis, all the talks, whether it be the hotel, whether it be Prime or St. Elmo's, I think the steakhouse is called in Indy. But the conversations about that are already circulating. It's just next week, it's when everything becomes official. Because I know, and we all know this with sports, that every single insider, like on that day, so next Monday at noon is when the legal tampering period begins. And we know that Schefter and Rappaport are all going to have to play one-upsman with each other to get the tweets out about who's signing where. But when it comes to the Bears with this, I just feel like, look, they're doing their legwork. The fact that you're buying what they're selling in the sense of, look, there's hope, and they're starting to listen to the fans finally, because it's what the fans want. You want an O-line. Poles is going to go out there and try to get you an offensive line because they know, hey, we got QB1. We just got to surround him with that. Now I would ask, I was going to say, what are the draft targets? But obviously I know that you guys aren't in the best position. Giants obviously have your pick because of the Justin Fields trade. But you can look at those day 2 and day 3 guys and look at them. And if they pan out, I preach this from time and time again. I always say this. You win the draft on the Friday and Saturday. Thursday is just a lottery ticket and you hope it pans out. You win on Thursday and on Friday and Saturday, because if those guys can come in and start for you and be successful NFL players, that's how you know you've had a good draft.
Yeah. Man, the draft is tough too, because like you said, obviously we're not in the best position. We don't have that big flashy first rounder. I think, like, to me, like, obviously I'm beating a dead horse at this point, but offensive line, whether we trade, free agency, draft, like, I just want to gather up all the offensive linemen we can and just dump them in a bucket and see what works. There's defensive issues that need to be addressed, because I still think the defense is good, but they're not that. Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're not that. What was it? 2016, I guess. Bears defense that was just
18?
Nasty. Was it 18? Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I'm losing it.
It's all good.
Yeah.
You've had a long
day. Yeah. So I don't know, man. It's gonna have to be a bunch of value picks, because of the position that we're in. Like I said, we don't have that high end pick, but I don't know. Who knows? Maybe we'll find something in the back of the cupboard to trade up a couple picks. And man, I'm just like, at this point, I'm kind of putting all my cards on the table, and I'm saying, okay, Poles, go out, get your guy, get your guys, because I really have no choice but to trust him. So at this point, it's kind of just, I'm throwing my papers in the wind, and it's like, all right, just go do whatever you think is best for the Chicago Bears on the football field, and I'll basically blindly follow.
I get that. It's when you have a first-year coach and GM, that's kind of what you got to do. You got to kind of like say, hey, they're giving us hope. They're giving us something that we can kind of latch onto. So we're going to latch onto it until we want to latch off. Kind of like how you guys with Matt Nagy, where it was like year 1, okay, 12-4. Obviously, the playoff game. If we don't, there's another world where, look, Cody makes that kick, and I know I'm reopening an old wound, but Cody makes the kick, and who knows how far you guys go. If you guys, I think you would have played. I'm trying to remember who you would have played the next week, because I know the Saints played the Eagles. I know you guys. I think you guys. I want to say the Rams. I was saying you would have gone to LA, so we would have seen what happened there. No. And then it's just one of those things where it's like those what ifs in sports, but you hate that. And then 2019, 8-8. Look, the season was okay. Is what it is. 2020 though, you make the playoffs. Mitch wins MVP. And then by the midpoint of last season, I could tell that Bears fans are already at that point where they're like, okay, we've had enough. I've seen it too, because as you know, we're both stoolies. I'll listen to part of my take. And a lot of the Bears knowledge I get is through Big Cat and what he's feeling, just because besides you and him, there's not a whole lot of Bears fans I talk to. But I can kind of tell too, besides Aaron Rodgers should be in jail right now. But the big thing with the Bears this year, I feel like it's another year where, look, if you finish 7-10, 8-9, even if you flirt with a playoff spot, I in my eyes, I see it as a winning season. But like, how would you see it? If it's like 9-8, you have to win week 18, but you'll lose and miss.
Right. So I think this is the first year in quite some time where I'm kind of with you, because every year I go in thinking, oh, whatever, the Bears are going to do this and that, and we'll figure it out as we go. But with this one, I just want to see, first of all, I want Justin to not get hurt. Like, I don't want him getting smashed up behind that line. That's the main thing for me. And I just want to see, I want to see baby steps, which is weird to say because there's not a whole lot of baby steps you can take in the NFL. You can get there like slowly, but at some point, there's going to have to be, you're going to have to start to jump instead of take those baby steps.
Yeah.
How long until the fan base gets tired of the baby steps? I don't know. I guess it depends how big the drawbacks are throughout the season. But yeah, I just want to see every week, I want to see something improve. Justin starts to read the defense better. The defense kind of steps up more often, which they will, but they will also just completely shut down for like half a game at a time. Yeah, I think the big thing for me, like from a visual standpoint, watching my favorite team play football, I just want an offensive game plan and not go out and just do all these wacky end arounds and like just throw crazy plays at the wall just because you can. I want to say, okay, this is who we are as an offense led by Justin Fields, and this is what we're going to go out and do. Sometimes it's not going to work, but sometimes we're going to have this play where you say, okay, I see what we're building to. And that's what this season's all about for me.
Exactly. And even too, if you can like win a game here or there, you know that you're not supposed to win. It's one of
Yes.
those things where if you can do that, it's kind of like, hey, look at these guys. It's kind of like I'm going to go back to my team for a second to give an example, but like how I know this game's a loss, but how we hung in tough with the Dallas Cowboys and nearly beat them. Stole wins against teams like we killed Cleveland, the Chargers, and then even how we beat the Bills, even though look they had the last laugh on us, but we still went in there on the Monday night. Mac only threw 3 times, but we still managed to get the win. I feel like it's kind of those sort of games that you want, and you almost had one in the Steelers game. But look, that one, another one, it is what it is. But at the same time, too, and you got to think about it. Like I agree with you. You want to see progress, but at the same time, too, don't rush it. Like the whole like walk before you run metaphor.
Yeah.
Exactly. The next thing I want to get into with is I didn't have it planned on my notes, but I did want to ask you for an update. Is there any update with the stadium situation, with the racetrack, or I want to say her name's Lori Lightfoot, the mayor, with
Yes.
keeping the team at Soldier Field? Where's that situation? So, because I feel like that one was one that really came up, but that's really quieted down. But I feel like now that it's the off season, and that news will probably get picked up again during the quiet season.
Right. So that is actually, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, it started kind of coming back up a little bit. It was nowhere near, obviously, the hype that it got when they went out and said, okay, this is what we're going to do. And Lori fired back and did her statement, whatever that was. Um, Basically, it was one of those things where it was an update, but it really wasn't. It was just kind of more reinforcing, hey, this is something that we're looking like forward to the future on. And of course, Lori, I think she put out like an unofficial statement, like maybe it was a tweet or something, where it was like, oh, basically it was saying the Bears can say this all they want, how they're gonna go to Arlington, they're gonna move out of the city, but I promise you, as the mayor of Chicago, that we're gonna keep the Chicago Bears, and like that was it. So there wasn't any update per se, but people definitely started talking about it again, whether it be the media or the fans or obviously the mayor. So yes and no.
Oh, okay. Because I still feel like too they want the stadium because obviously it's not an attractive destination right now for what it can hold. But if they get the stadium, they get a roof, they're going to get a Super Bowl. We know that because like how much the NFL look, Chicago's one of the OG NFL cities. It's one of the biggest cities in America. You put a stadium with a roof there and a whole district, you're going to get a Super Bowl. It's a matter of that. It's a matter not only that Final Fours. Who knows, one day, maybe AEW decides to run stadiums. They can go sell that out because I would say the obvious, but look, we're coming off Revolution, big pay-per-view. Yes, folks, we can talk wrestling. We're the W in YWC stands for wrestling. But all in all, and also to college championships, like the Natty for college football, it goes beyond that because I feel like it should work, but I feel like at the same time too, if it was being built within the limits of the city of Chicago, would be better. But I did look it up, and I feel like Arlington's about half an hour to 40 minutes north of Chicago, if I'm not mistaken. So you're called Chicago, but you're not physically anywhere near Chicago. It's kind of like how the Jets and Giants calls themselves New York, but they play in Jersey.
Yeah, and that honestly, that was something that I wouldn't say bothered me, but that was my main catch point on the Bears moving to Arlington. First of all, it would be better for me, and I think I've talked about this before, because it's so much closer and it's so much easier to get to than actually going to where Soldier Field is at, literally on the lakefront in the city. But just the fact that it wasn't actually in Chicago anymore, it was just in the Chicago area, was something that, like I said, it was a catch point for me. Wasn't a deal breaker, but it was just a weird thing. I did have a moment during the Super Bowl, like I was watching the coverage, and then they did that opening pan shot of, like, you see the whole city and you see this big, beautiful, just crazy complex. And I thought about it and I started thinking, like, man, like that, obviously it wouldn't look the same, different design, different surroundings, all that. But like the idea of having just a huge mecca with, like, you know, steakhouses and a mall and restaurants and all this stuff around it, it just, like, it started jogging my brain a little bit. Like, yeah, it won't be in Chicago. Like, it won't technically be the Chicago Bears, because that's an argument that has come up a lot in the fan base. But I think whatever we got to do to, first of all, upgrade the playing surface is the big thing, but just get as much money as we possibly can into this team. Get the tourism, get, like you said, the WrestleManias, the NCAAs, like all this stuff. Just bring it all here whenever we can, because right now we're doing none of that. I think the Chicago Fire play there, and that's like it when it comes to Soldier Field.
Exactly. And also, too, for where Soldier Field is, I know exactly where, because I'm going to show you something. Don't know how well you can see it, but that was taken by me in 2016. About a week or two before the season, I was there for vacation. I got the tour. I didn't get the tour. It's not like I'm anyone important. I literally bought a ticket, toured the stadium. Gonna get to go in the Bears locker rooms. They don't allow people in there, but that was taken in the Skyline suites that they showed us, like the really up top suites that are like covered in glass, and it's like really cool because you obviously get the overview of the stadium, but then you get the downtown Chicago skyline in the back. So I do know about the location, and it's just like literally like right there on the front. The parking situation too is another big one for tailgating. I know I've seen Bears fans. There's a kid that comes up on my TikTok from time to time. It's a Bears fan that talks about that one a lot. That's why they want the newer stadium, so you can go somewhere and tailgate. But you're right. Like, it's like even too, like with the NBA All-Star games that come up, like cities like Cleveland, cities like Salt Lake City are coming up for it. And I think Indy's getting one. And I always ask, why don't they go to the big cities? It's because those small cities want it, because more than the game itself, they know the tourism ramifications that go in behind it. They know we're going to get people visiting. We know we're going to get people going out to restaurants, buying hotels, going to stores. And it just generates millions and millions of dollars, whether it be a Bears game, concerts in the offseason, Final Fours, national championships, a WrestleMania. I'm going to say WrestleMania because obviously it's the big stadium, and we know the connection that WWE has to the Chicagoland area, most notably in Rosemont, because it's just one of those things that this goes further than football to get a new stadium, and we're seeing it right now with the Bills. So I feel like if they were to get it, that's the next step where it's, okay, you've secured the land, now who's going to pay for it? Because I know the Bears, like, look, if the owner of the Bears, Virginia, I don't know what she's worth. You own an NFL team, you're worth a lot, but it's not like they come from anything. They're not super billionaires and have other businesses. The Bears is what's in the McCaskies, or the houses. I say McCaskies because it's obviously Virginia McCaskey, but then it's George McCaskey that's right underneath her. That's their son?
Yes.
Yeah, so I feel like it's one of those things, too, where I think we talked about this before. The family's waiting for Virginia to pass away. I think once that happens, I know that's not the nicest thing to say, but it's one of those things like I believe she's almost 100. Once it happens, that's when this team will probably sell, like we're seeing with the Denver Broncos right now, the Pat Bowlen situation. And I feel like once you get someone in there who does have the money, that's when I think the stadium talks can truly heat up. But at the same time, too, I think it's going to come down to what the city wants, but also to what the organization wants.
Yeah, and anytime I talk about this, whether it's with you, with another Bears fan, with my dad, I always say the same thing. Like, everything I've ever heard about Virginia has been she's the sweetest woman. Like, she loves the Chicago Bears. She loves her family. She loves the city of Chicago. She's just I don't know if I've ever heard like a negative about her. But yeah, from kind of like whispers in the media and the fan base, it does seem like they're just kind of waiting for her to unfortunately pass away. Um, which, like you said, it's not the nicest thing to think about or say, but it's, apparently what it is. So we'll take it at face value. Uh, I don't know how this situation is going to shake out because I could see the city like going really, 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 really hard to keep them in Chicago and basically saying, okay, we'll give you whatever you want, just please stay. Um, just because, if nothing else, of the history. And I mean, the Bulls obviously they had their run in the '90s where they were unbelievable. The Hawks had their run, and the Sox and Cubs have had their little moments here and there. But like 100 times out of 100, if you ask like someone who lives in Chicago or in the area, like whose town is Chicago? It's a Bears town. So even just from like a public perspective, the city might just lay down and say, okay, just do whatever you need. Let us give you whatever you need and stay. But maybe the Bears might say, no, like we got to change it up. So it'll take years and years. So we'll see kind of how it plays out. But I could see it going a million different ways.
So can I, because at the end of the day, look, it's all business. It's all about money at the end of the day. But I totally agree with you on the one part where, look, like you said, I know the Hawks right now. They're obviously that's a whole another discussion that we can have with Mister Rocky. The Bulls, they look like they're back. I don't know. I don't know. Cubs and White Sox, we'll see. But I feel like no matter what, you could be a big. I know, obviously, look, the one big person from Chicago that we know doesn't. He's not a football fan. He likes his Hawks. He likes his Cubs. Mr. Punk. But with Chicago, with a lot of you guys, Chicagoans, guys, is Chicagoans the right term?
Yeah, Chicagoans is right.
I feel like you could be a Cubs fan, or you could be a White Sox fan. You could be a diehard Bulls fan, or you could love the Hawks. But I feel like every Sunday, all you guys just unite as one. Put on your whether it be your navy, your white, your orange. I'm not sure if they still make orange jerseys, but I know that they had orange at one time, or
Yeah.
the ones with the stripes on the shoulders, the white with the stripes, the retro throwback. And you do
Yes.
that, and you gather at Soldier Field, or you watch at a bar, or you watch with beef or a deep dish pizza, and you cheer on the Bears. That's how I feel like it is with. I know Chicago's a big city, but it still has that blue collar, small town Americana feel to it. Like I go to Buffalo, New York often, and I know I'm the enemy, but that is a Bills town first. Obviously, the Sabres suck; they're mid. But we know that you go there, it's literally eat, sleep, breathe Buffalo Bills football. And that's what I feel like you get that same sort of energy from not just the Bears, the Bills, every single NFL fan base. Like, even like no matter how big or small the city is where they play. I feel like it's just on one thing that everyone can unite on. It's on one thing everyone's super, super passionate about, which it's still weird to see how, like, obviously there's fights that happen at other games, but for some reason, NFL just, it's another level of passion and excitement. But it's like I said, all you say in episode 100. That's the reason why we love the sport, and that's just one thing I wanted to add. And one other thing, when it comes to Virginia, Chicago now has two older women that they just love. They've got Virginia and they've got Sister Jean, because that is very relevant right now, folks. Will the Ramblers make a run? Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, man, I remember the first one they made. Like, I was never the biggest fan of, Illinois college basketball. Like when it comes to the state, not just like U of I, University of Illinois.
Yeah.
But man, that Loyola run was magical, and I don't think I knew anybody that expected it going into the season. I'm sure that people did, like alumni or people that are a lot smarter than I am when it comes to college basketball, but Yeah, ever since that original run, they've become kind of like my my adopted team when it comes to the tournament because they captured like the Bears 24/7 365 capture Chicago.
Yeah,
Loyola captured Chicago that entire time. Everyone was tuned into every second of every game.
exactly. I feel like that's what you get with the Bears. It drowns out, but it's what you get, and that's one of the reasons why we love March. Obviously, look, we don't know. We know some about college basketball, but we do know that come next week, we're going to be placing wagers responsibly. And if you give me a quick second, I got to do this because I got to pay the bills. For the best place to go for the best odds on any sports book in any part of the states, folks, please visit BetStamp, the app. Download it from either Apple or Google. Available on both platforms. Use the promo code GriffB to sign up, and you can connect your sports books to there, whether it be DraftKings, FanDuel, Barstool, WinBet, BetMGM, Bet365, Come On, Bet99, etc. They're all there. Shop for the best odds this March Madness. BetStamp, promo code GriffB, link in bio. Well, Tommy, thank you for bearing with me for that. Obviously, look, I got to pay the bills around here. It's
Yes,
part of the
sir.
biz. It's part of the biz. But the next thing I want to ask you about, not so much free agency needs or wants, because obviously you've been hammering offensive line. I want to ask you more or less guys like Allen Robinson or Akeem Hicks. Do you think there's a chance that they stay? Do they go? Are you still on the fence about it? Where do you stand when it comes to those two guys? And while you're doing that, I'm just going to look up the rest of the Bears free agency class just so I can ask you about more players.
So I think this is crazy to say compared to where my mindset was a year ago. I think I'm ready for AR to head out the door. Robinson, I mean, look, he's an incredibly talented guy. I think he's an incredible wide receiver. There was some, and again, this is rumors. I'm not in the room. I'm not on the practice field, so I don't know if this is the case. But there was too much smoke for there not to be fire this season, that AR was kind of disconnected. He was just showing up, going through the motions. Uh, you know, he was basically just that old saying, "I'm just here so I don't get fined."
Yeah.
And that, I mean, listen, as Bears fans, I'm sure as players, as coaching staff, we've all been frustrated the last couple of years. I completely understand it. And, you know, he's going into a situation where he's wanting to get paid crazy, crazy money, which I don't blame the guy. Like, I would too. But it seemed like when he realized that that probably wasn't going to happen with the Bears, he might have mentally checked out a little bit. And again, I don't want to say this as fact, like I have any insider information. He's another guy where he does a lot of good in the community, and he seems like a great person when it comes to off the field stuff. And like I said, super talented on the field, but he didn't he didn't seem at all like Allen Robinson this year. He had his flashes, he had his moments, but he just, I don't know, there was something off with him. So if he can go get big money elsewhere, I'd be super happy for the guy. Good for him, but I think that relationship has kind of soured to the point where it's not good for either party if he stays. When it comes to Akeem, I love that dude. I think, like, obviously Khalil Mack's there and he's the big name, but to me, Akeem is the anchor of that defense. And we saw it. I forget which game it was, but he went down and just the defense was here. And the play after he went down, the defense came down to here and it never really recovered. Um, he just, I mean, the cliche is the monsters of the midway, but that dude, like, if you look in the dictionary and see the word monster, that's the picture. That guy just wrecks plays for fun. Unfortunately, it seems like he's probably out the door, at least trying to be. So unfortunately for either of those guys, I don't know. I would like to say that at least one of them, at least Akeem, would stay, but I we'll have to see because it's not looking, you know, like it's butterflies and rainbows. I don't know. But yeah, I would absolutely love Akeem to be here for like ever if he wants to be.
I completely understand. You need those guys in your defense that are going to anchor him. Obviously, look, he's a defensive tackle, big guy. Shout out University of Regina in Canada, by the way. But you need those kind of guys that can be leaders both on and off the field. We know how much that means to a team. That's why, like with today's trades, for example, Noah Fant going to Seattle kind of surprised me because Denver, I think you need a tight end to throw to. And with Shelby Harris too, Shelby Harris is one of those guys that he can be a leader in Seattle immediately. Allen Robinson, I do agree with. I think the hope is that like that Darnell Mooney does take those next steps. He's had his moments in the sun last year. The AR Robinson, I feel like is very. This is gonna. I know we're reopening another wound that's pretty fresh, but both their initials are AR. Okay, but like how everyone thought that the relationship with Rodgers and the Packers soured, I feel like with Robinson and the Bears, it soured, but it soured enough to where they only brought him back, where he only came back and signed his tag last year because they were starting to flirt with and talk to other guys. I believe Juju Smith-Schuster was in the conversation. There was a couple other wide receivers they were talking to. And then once Robinson saw that, he was like, oh, no, I'm here. I'm the guy. Like, you can rely on me. But now I feel like it's his chance to where, you know what, hey, he can go out there, chase that bag, get done when he needs to get done. If I had to put priority on either guy, I would say Hicks, just for the obvious reasons like we talked about. You hope Mooney takes those next steps. You can always bring in someone on the cheap. You can also to draft someone day 2, day 3, and hope they prosper. The other one is we'll see what happens with a guy like Alec Ogletree. I want to say Jimmy Graham too, but I feel like Jimmy Graham's gonna probably try to get to a contender on for cheap money, try to go ring chasing, if you will. Yeah. But I feel like if anything too, I feel like Hicks as well should be enticed by the fact that he has a defensive head coach now. But I feel like at the end of the day, it's all a big wait and see. There's no one else really on this list that really highlights me except for maybe Deshaun Gibson, but I guess that's another wait and see. Like he could stay, he could go, but a lot of these guys, I feel like Dalton will end up somewhere. Bilal Nichols, James Daniels, Jesse James, they're all guys that are like borderline irrelevant to the point where if you lose them, you're not going to cry over it. The only one that I see that is interesting still is Jakeem Grant because he was pretty – for the few Bears games I watched, which, look, there was the one on my birthday against the Vikings this year, the Monday Nighter, and people were bitching about it. And I was like, look, we're near the end of the season. It's not the best game. But in 3 months, you're going to be wanting football, so shut the fuck up and enjoy this game. That's why I never take another football game for granted. 272 and I believe 13 playoff games. I don't take them for granted solely based on the fact that, look, the season's only 5 months. Enjoy those 5 months. But I'm just going to go off topic for a second and say why I enjoy doing a football podcast. The regular season starts in 6 months, and look at us having a very good talk about the Bears. It's March 8th. The season's going to start next year on literally September. I believe September 8th. 6 months today.
Oh, look at that.
6 months today. The season kicks off in I almost said Chicago. Maybe one day in Los Angeles. The season will kick off, and we're here to talk football, and that's why I do a football pod. Where am I trying to else go with it? But yeah, that's how I view Bears free agency, where try to sign a lot of veterans, I guess, on cheaper deals, bring in guys who are looking for second chances, and hope that none of them crap out and you have to go out and sign like Jason Peters, which we obviously saw was a failed experiment. But I feel like now too, even though COVID still, I don't know what the situation's like in Illinois with COVID. We're starting to open up here more in Ontario. But I feel like now, and that's something I haven't talked about either, is the fact that the COVID rules are completely gone from the NFL and all the facilities. I feel like signing guys and bringing guys in is going to be a lot easier, whether they're vaccinated or if they're unvaccinated, or, immunized.
Topical.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Illinois, I don't want to say like back to normal because we're not, but all the mask mandates are gone and the vaccine mandates for everything except like if you have to go to a hospital, you still have to be masked up. And then I believe public transportation as well. Those are the only two outside of obviously the federal buildings because of the federal mandate. But yeah, when it comes to that kind of stuff, we're pretty back to normal. So yeah, it's going to be a situation where, we're not going to see a Kyrie Irving thing for the Nets where, we're going to run into issues with vaccinated, unvaccinated, immunized, unimmunized.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see kind of really how the whole league adjusts to going back to normal.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my thing about it too, how the league's gonna go back because I feel like this will always flare up again around the holidays, and or not even the holidays, but like I feel like it's gonna be like flu season. You know how flu season there's outbreaks. I don't know
Yes.
if the Bulls or Bears of the Bears, the Bulls or the Hawks have had it, but like the Leafs had it, the Raptors I think may have gone through it a little bit, where guys were not getting COVID, but like getting the flu bug. The flu bug was going around. The COVID
Mhm.
numbers are locked down, but I feel like now too the fact that, and I know a lot of like people who are like not conspiracy theorists, but people who like are very pro like restriction, not even pro restrictions, but like people that like are on one side of the COVID spectrum where they think the restrictions still stay in place when it comes to like masks and vaccine, whether it be mandates, passports. We call them passports up here, even though those
Yeah.
just got taken away, but we still have mask mandates still in place. I feel like because a lot of those people were saying when Wild Card Weekend came around, they said the whole, hey, you know what, asymptomatic players are the only ones that are going to get tested if you have symptoms, because that's why they had to move all those games around week 15. But my point is to that, now that they have to do that, I'm just interested to see how they deal with stuff like that. But at the same time, too, what I was trying to get at is when you had playoffs, you had no outbreaks. None of the playoff games were affected. So I want to see, once again, how the regular season is affected because 2020, there was a lot of maneuvering. 2021, look, the fact that only 3 games got compromised out of 272, I think says a lot when you saw what the NBA and what the NHL were going through. And I think also this goes to the fact that I said this about 2 years ago when this stuff started to hit and stuff started to close, that the NFL was going to keep shrugging on. Look, 2 years ago, like I say, the NFL never died, and we watched the draft for 3 straight days because it was the only sports that were on.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I was going to say, I'm not sure if we have a whole lot more to talk about. Like I said, the only other thing I was going to bring up was draft targets, but we already elaborated on it. O line, O line, O line. Maybe a receiver, maybe a linebacker.
Yeah.
The other player I want to make light of quickly too is that I feel like had a really good season for you guys that went unnoticed league wide was Robert Quinn.
Yeah. I think
It was like 16 or 17. I know I want to say the Bears all time single season sack record.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, I think he tied it. Um,
I know he tied Richard Dent.
yeah, I guess he must have. But yeah, he was one of those guys that I don't want to say I was down on after year one, but it seemed like another one of those. Oh boy, here we go again. Like big hype. We get this big name, and he comes in and he's whatever. Now, obviously, that season where he came in was a whole bunch of weird for a whole bunch of reasons.
Yeah.
So there's excuses to be had, and they're valid. But yeah, for me, like he was an awesome story last year because I went into the season, like I said, down on him, like, oh yeah, great, whatever. But then he started racking up tackles for loss, racking up sacks. I'm like, okay, like he's doing pretty good. But it's just the start to the season. We'll see how it plays out. But he just kept going, kept going, kept going. So I think, yeah, for me, that might have been probably the best story when it came to the Bears because it was just such a switch from everyone was super down on him, like, oh, we did it again. We gave money to someone who did nothing. And then he just put his head down. He worked hard all off season, and he came in and he killed it this past year. So hey, more of that next year. That would be great. Maybe some other guys can join him.
I did look it up, by the way. He has he did 18 and a half this year. So he has the single season record, but Richard Dent still holds the Bears all time sack record.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Makes
no,
sense.
those are the players though that on any team that you want to see like you don't want to see them succeed isn't the word I was looking for, but you're happy if they produce. I said that this year about a lot of Pats guys. If they came in and they produced, they did their job, I was going to be happy with them. And I got that other guys like Hunter Henry, Kendrick Bourne, Matthew Judon, even though Judon did start to fall off towards the second half of the season. That's what you want though with a lot of those guys that when you sign them, that you don't have a whole lot of expectations for, if they produce and they come out of nowhere, you can rack that up as a success.
Yeah, for sure. That's what it was.
Exactly. Well, Tommy, do you have anything else that you want to add today? If you want to bring up Bears wise, or
I do. I want to kind of bookend this. Um, I do want to say that I love taking shots at Rodgers. I love taking shots at the Packers. But realistically, man, I did think that he was out. I did think that my long nightmare was over. Obviously, that's not the case. But you know, it is what it is. We got to deal with it. But hey, I've got a couple friends that are Packers fans, so I'm happy for them, even though it's going to make me sad, twice a year to see him just tear us apart, just 5 yard slant, 5 yard slant all the way down the field. So yeah, I just kind of want to bookend it by saying, he's he's not Tom Brady at all. Like nobody's Tom Brady, but he's one of those guys where if he was on any other team and he wasn't killing the Bears twice a year, like he's incredible. Like just as a football player, I respect the living hell out of him. I just wish he went somewhere else, but hey, Brady's well, because for now Brady's gone, so we got to pass the torch somehow. Hopefully, it's not him having the success, but yeah, I just kind of want to finish up by saying, here we are, like here we go again with the whole Rodgers thing. But the big thing is, man, just little improvements for the Bears every single week. Just trend the line slightly upwards, and I'll be happy.
and has Mike started his cleanse yet? The Aaron Rodgers, like self-bleeding, forcing yourself to vomit, eating like butter for days on end until you basically shit and barf it all out. Like, has any of those Packer fans, started it that just straight up, let's be honest, weird cleanse?
I think it would be cheese, right?
I think
Instead
it
of
would.
butter.
Oh yeah, you know what? Yeah, you know what? You're right. They'll replace it with cheese.
Yeah.
That's just gross. Just thinking about it, just replacing it with cheese, but still, it's dairy. And we know Wisconsin's
Right.
known for its
Yeah.
dairy.
Yeah, I honestly haven't talked to Mike at all about it yet, mostly because I don't want to. So I'm sure I'll shoot him a text like, I don't know, it's 7 o'clock now, so I'll shoot him a text in a bit and I'll be like, so how's it going, buddy? But yeah, I mean, really, I had a couple people come into work that I know are Packers fans today. And first of all, most of them didn't even know because they came in kind of like right after it happened. So they were
Yeah.
driving or whatever it was. So I was able to break the news, and half of them were like, oh my God, yes, like thank God. And there were a couple guys who were like, oh, really? And that like made me step back for a second. I was like, okay. I mean, obviously he did like he he took the Packers for a ride a little bit. Like, he did the LeBron decision without doing the LeBron decision. But that's Aaron Rodgers, man. And Devontae coming back with him. Like, I was surprised by a couple of reactions that I heard and saw today.
I think it's just people thinking that they were kind of prepared for him to move on, or they thought
Um,
we don't want to do the same song and dance again because, like I said, you're paying them all that money just to choke in January. But at the same
right.
time, too, the AFC is the better conference. We'll see what the NFC does over the next couple of weeks. We'll see what they do at the end of April.
Yeah.
We'll go from there.
Yeah.
But anyway, Tommy, it was a blast getting to have you on. Once again, we'll have to do this sometime soon. Maybe after the draft, after free agency, maybe, or we can do something where we mix the two together, get your thoughts on where you think you are going into the season, and then we'll go from there. But look, I'm just an outside voice from Bear Down Nation, and someone that you can rely on to play therapist.
Yeah, absolutely. Much appreciated as always. Thank you.
Anytime. Well, anyway, folks, that's going to do it here for episode number 157 of YWC Football Talk. The road to 200 continues. Have a good night.